Poor couple, a rich lesson. They couldn't afford gifts, but they could afford sacrifice. They lived in a small, quiet European town where the winters were long and the streets seemed older than time itself. The houses leaned gently toward one another as if sharing secrets, and among them stood a narrow, weathered home with a faded door and a single window that glowed softly at night. In that house lived an old man and an old woman, husband and wife, bound together not by wealth or comfort, but by a love that had survived decades of hardship. They had been poor all their lives, not the kind of poverty that comes suddenly and shocks the soul, but the slow, familiar kind that grows alongside you, becomes part of your routine, and teaches you patience before it teaches you pain. From the first day of their marriage, they had known scarcity. Their furniture was old, their clothes were worn, and their savings were always small. Yet their home had something many grand houses lacked: peace, warmth, and sincere affection. They had no children. That absence had once ached deeply, especially in the early years when hope still knocked on the door. Over time, the ache softened into quiet acceptance. They learned to be enough for each other. As the years passed, their youth faded, their backs bent, and their hands grew rough and trembling. Whatever little savings they had slowly disappeared into the needs of daily survival, medical bills, and the rising cost of living. Still, one tradition never disappeared. Every year, without fail, they celebrated their wedding anniversary. It did not matter how difficult the year had been or how empty their pockets were. On that single day, they always exchanged gifts. The gifts were often simple, sometimes handmade, sometimes almost invisible in value, but rich in meaning. What mattered was not what was given, but the intention behind it. That tradition had become the quiet heartbeat of their marriage, reminding them every year why they had chosen each other. The old man used to say that love survives not on grand promises, but on small, repeated acts of care. The old woman believed that a gift, no matter how small, carried the soul of the giver. Together, these beliefs shaped their life. Time, however, is relentless. As they grew older, earning a living became harder. The man no longer had the strength to work as he once did, and the woman's health did not allow her to take on heavy labor. Slowly, painfully, they reached a stage where there was nothing left to save. Each coin was counted, each purchase was weighed, and as another anniversary approached, an unfamiliar fear settled quietly between them. Neither spoke of it, but both knew the truth. This year, there was no money. The man would sit silently in the evenings, holding an old pocket watch in his hands. It was a relic from another time, inherited long ago, its surface scratched and dulled. The watch still worked, but its chain was long gone. Because of that, he kept it carefully in his pocket, always afraid it might slip and fall. That watch was his most precious possession, not because of its value, but because it was the last reminder of a past when life had seemed lighter. The woman, on the other hand, would often brush her long hair slowly in front of a small mirror. Her hair had remained thick and beautiful despite her age, flowing down her back like a dark curtain. It was the one thing people still noticed about her, the one thing time had not taken away. The man loved her hair. He often said it reminded him of the days when she would walk beside him with laughter in her eyes and hope in her steps. As the anniversary drew closer, their worries deepened. The man felt ashamed. He believed it was his duty to give his wife something, even if it was small. The thought of facing that day empty-handed weighed heavily on his heart. The woman felt the same. For her, giving a gift was not an obligation, but an expression of love. The idea of breaking their tradition felt like breaking a sacred promise. Neither wanted to burden the other with their fear, so both suffered in silence. One cold morning, as the woman walked through the town market to buy basic groceries, she noticed a small shop she had passed many times before but never truly seen. In the window were displayed several beautiful hairpieces and wigs, carefully arranged and glowing softly under warm light. A small sign indicated that the shop dealt in real, natural hair. She stopped. Something stirred inside her. She entered the shop hesitantly and spoke with the owner, asking questions she had never imagined she would ask. When she learned that her hair could be sold and that it was valuable, her heart beat faster. At that moment, her long hair felt less like a part of her identity and more like a means to express love. She did not decide immediately. She went home, sat quietly, and looked at her husband as he rested by the window. She thought of his watch slipping in his pocket, of his tired hands, of the way his eyes still softened when he looked at her. A quiet resolve formed within her. Love, she believed, was sacrifice without regret. That evening, she made her choice. She returned to the shop the next day. As the scissors cut through her hair, she closed her eyes. Each lock that fell carried years of memories with it, but also the weight of her intention. When it was done, her reflection looked unfamiliar. Her hair was short now, almost fragile, yet her heart felt steady. With the money she received, she did not hesitate. She went directly to a small store and bought a simple but sturdy chain, perfectly suited for a pocket watch. She held it carefully, imagining her husband finally wearing his watch securely, without fear. At the same time, across town, the old man sat alone, troubled by the same approaching day. His thoughts circled endlessly until they reached a painful conclusion. He knew what he had to do, even though it broke his heart. Love, he believed, was giving even when it hurt. Unaware of each other's decisions, they both prepared their gifts, driven by the same emotion, guided by the same devotion. The anniversary night was drawing near. The days passed quietly, each one bringing the anniversary closer. The house remained the same, modest and calm, but inside both hearts were restless. They moved around each other with familiar gentleness, careful not to reveal their inner storms. Every shared meal, every exchanged glance carried an unspoken weight. Love was present, but so was fear. Fear of disappointment, fear of silence. On a day that had always spoken so loudly of devotion, the old man made his decision one gray afternoon. He took the pocket watch from its usual place and held it for a long time. His fingers traced the scratches on its surface, each one a reminder of a moment lived, a year endured. This watch had been with him through hardship and hope, through youth and age. Yet he knew that love sometimes demanded letting go of what was precious. He wrapped the watch carefully in a piece of cloth and walked slowly to a small shop where old items were bought and sold. Each step felt heavier than the last. When he finally placed the watch on the counter, his voice trembled slightly as he agreed to sell it. The amount he received was modest, but it was enough to honor his intention. With that money, he went to a nearby store and chose a simple hair clip. It was not extravagant, but it was elegant in its simplicity. He imagined his wife using it to gather her long hair with ease, imagined her smiling softly as she placed it in her hair. That image gave him comfort. He returned home with the small package hidden carefully in his coat, his heart aching yet peaceful. Meanwhile, the woman adjusted slowly to her new reflection. The absence of her long hair felt strange, almost like losing a part of herself. She wrapped her head in a scarf when she went outside, not out of shame, but to protect something deeply personal. Still, when she touched the small chain she had bought, her heart felt light. She had done what love asked of her. The evening of their anniversary arrived quietly. There were no decorations, no guests, no celebration that the world could see. But inside their small home, the atmosphere felt sacred. The woman prepared a simple meal with care, arranging the table as she always did on that day. The man lit a small candle, its flame flickering gently between them. They sat together and ate slowly, sharing memories of earlier years. They spoke of small joys, of moments that had once seemed ordinary but now felt precious. Laughter and silence moved naturally between them. When the meal ended, they both knew the moment had come. The woman stood first. She reached into a drawer and brought out the small box containing the chain. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed it in her husband's palms. She spoke softly, her voice steady despite the emotion rising within her. She told him that she had noticed his difficulty with the watch, how it never stayed safely with him, how she wished to make that easier. She apologized that it was such a small gift, but said it came from her heart. The man looked at the chain, then at her face. His eyes filled with tears. Slowly, painfully, he spoke. He told her that he had sold the watch. He explained that he could not bear the thought of their anniversary passing without a gift for her. From his pocket, he took out the small wrapped package and placed it in her hands. She opened it and saw the hair clip. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the woman reached up and gently removed her scarf. The man froze, his breath caught as he saw her short hair for the first time. Confusion, realization, and sorrow collided in his eyes. She smiled through her tears and explained everything: how she had sold her hair to buy the chain, how she wanted him to wear his watch with ease, how love had guided her choice. The room filled with silence, thick and heavy, yet deeply intimate. Tears flowed freely now, not from regret, but from the overwhelming truth of what stood before them. Each had sacrificed their most valued possession for the sake of the other. Each gift had become unnecessary in form, yet priceless in meaning. The man took her hands in his and held them close. He told her that her love was greater than any watch, any possession, any symbol. She replied that his intention mattered more than any gift she could receive. In that moment, they understood something profound. They were rich in a way money could never measure. Their story was not one of loss, but of devotion, not of poverty, but of abundance of heart. That night, they prayed together quietly. Gratitude filled their words. They thanked God for companionship, for patience, for a love that had grown stronger through trial. They slept with peace in their hearts, knowing that their bond had been tested and proven sincere. This kind of love rooted in sacrifice, mercy, and intention is not foreign to Islam. It is, in fact, deeply honored. Islam teaches that marriage is built upon affection and mercy, that spouses are garments for one another, protecting, comforting, and beautifying each other's lives. What this couple lived was a reflection of that principle, even without words. Love, when guided by sincerity, transcends culture, wealth, and time. The morning after their anniversary arrived softly, as if the world itself wished to honor the quiet depth of what had occurred. Sunlight filtered through the small window, touching the worn walls and the simple furniture with a gentle glow. Nothing in their house had changed, yet everything felt different. There was a new calm between them, a deeper stillness, the kind that comes after truth has been revealed and fully accepted. They moved through the day slowly. The man brewed tea while the woman folded clothes. Their movements were familiar, but their hearts were fuller. The loss of the watch and the hair no longer felt like loss at all. Instead, those sacrifices had transformed into symbols, proof that their love was alive, selfless, and sincere. As days turned into weeks, the story of that anniversary settled into their lives as a quiet reminder. Whenever the man reached instinctively for his watch and found it absent, he did not feel pain. He remembered the chain in his wife's trembling hands and the intention behind it. Whenever the woman touched her short hair or passed by a mirror, she did not feel regret. She remembered her husband's tears and the love reflected in them. Their bond had reached a depth that words could not easily describe. This is the kind of love that Islam recognizes, honors, and encourages. In the Quran, marriage is described as a relationship built upon mawaddah, deep affection, and rahmah, mercy. These are not superficial emotions. They are lived values, proven in moments of difficulty, sacrifice, and restraint. Love in Islam is not measured by wealth or display, but by intention, patience, and responsibility toward one another. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught that the best among people are those who are best to their families. Kindness between husband and wife is not optional in Islam. It is an act of worship. A smile, a gentle word, a sincere effort to ease the other's burden, these are all forms of charity. What this elderly couple lived was, in essence, the spirit of these teachings. They had protected each other's dignity. They had hidden their worries so as not to burden one another. They had given from what they loved most. This is precisely the standard Islam sets for marital love: selflessness without expectation, care without conditions, and sacrifice without pride. Poverty never destroyed their marriage because they never allowed it to define their worth. Islam teaches that honor does not lie in possessions, but in character. Their story proves that a home can be poor in material terms, yet rich in values. A marriage can lack comfort, yet overflow with peace. In a world obsessed with excess, their story stands as a reminder. Love does not need luxury. Commitment does not require abundance. What truly sustains a marriage is sincerity of intention, niyyah, patience during hardship, sabr, gratitude in simplicity, shukr, and mercy in every interaction, rahmah. They continued to live quietly in their small home, growing older side by side. Their steps slowed, their voices softened, but their bond remained firm. And though the world never knew their story, it was written deeply into their hearts. This was not just a tale of two poor people. It was a lesson, a mirror, a call to return to the essence of love as Islam understands it: pure, sacrificial, and rooted in faith. Because in the end, the richest marriages are not those filled with gifts, but those filled with hearts willing to give everything for one another.